Spirituality in motion. A spiritual being moving a human body. For both, awareness is essential. To be aware of the positioning or alignment of the body, and to be aware of the positioning or alignment of the being. When that alignment is ideal, there is breath, there is life, there is power, and that power is always beneficial. Awareness, alignment, breath. I take a moment to align my body. Feeling my spine nice and tall, alert, but comfortable. And I know there should be a bit of space, or at least no pressure, between the back of my pelvis and the chair. There should be a little space there. It is to sit in a royal way, where the ribs can move easily and naturally with the breath. And now let me align myself, the being. For just a few moments, I will close my eyes to go within, to go inside. And I feel myself, I experience myself as if inside my body, inside a room, all my own. The body around me, below me. And I feel more strongly, more clearly the presence of my body. But to be in that position of mastery, I need to bring my awareness up into my head and position it right behind my eyes, right behind them, while aware of the center of the forehead, knowing that is where I, the being, am positioned. I am there, but I need to be aware of it, and I need to position my awareness there. And so I am ready, right behind my eyes, which I now gently open while keeping my awareness, my attention there. Aware of my eyes and the center of my forehead. And I am there, centered, positioned on the throne of the forehead. I, the being, am also now seated in a royal way, observing through my eyes. I experience my body below me, the gentle movement of the breath, and from my position in the center of the forehead, as the one seeing through the eyes, the observer, I become more and more concentrated. And I feel the quality of my energy and that subtle light shining from me as from a tiny star. Become calm, gentle, quiet. A gentle power that is kind, caring, that is now animating my body. And that movement of the breath, it is a freeing energy, naturally releasing any tension. Liberating and empowering. I sit in the center of the forehead of this body, becoming more and more concentrated and more alive, present. Radiating a peaceful power, energy. I am aligned. My body is aligned. And I'm ready to live with this peaceful energy, caring vibrations. Spirituality in motion. Om Shanti. Om Shanti, good evening. I'm not sure if this is loud enough. Is it okay? How is the level for there? Okay, yeah. All right. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me? So welcome to the third session of the Spirituality in Motion 3-session series. And today we'll be exploring a little bit another element that's required to allow us to come into that most optimal functioning, if you will. And maybe we'll do a little bit of a review as well. So, as was mentioned in the meditation commentary, there are 3 elements that we've been kind of focusing on or drawing from. And first and foremost is awareness, consciousness. This is key for both being aware of how to care for the body, how to align the body, and that's the second element, alignment. But it starts with awareness, and awareness means I will need information. I will need knowledge. I will need to know where I am and where ideally I want to go, and what is required to make that happen. And I will need to use that awareness to implement that knowledge. And there will be things that will get in the way, obstacles to implementing. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Actually, we talked about it a bit last week, but there's some other elements to that as well. And so, awareness. And awareness of what I need to do to position the body and myself properly, so that there can be power. Action requires power, energy. And when that alignment is accurate for both the body and the being, the positioning, then the power that's generated, because there is power in both, but that power will be beneficial. So the body has all kinds of muscles in it. I won't tell you how many because I'm not really sure, but there's a lot. And those muscles are quite powerful. We probably don't access the full power of them most of the time, but they're quite powerful. There's a lot of potential for power in them. And when the alignment is not correct, that power can actually be harmful, can cause us pain, can create dysfunction when actions are performed. And when that alignment is accurate, those same muscles can provide a lot of enjoyment and joy in the actions performed. And actually there'll be even more efficiency. So you'll feel like less energy and more result. Same with the being. That being that I am, that soul, I have power, always. But, depending on the positioning, and that positioning isn't just that I'm aware that I'm seated in the center of the forehead, but as was mentioned last week, it's about knowing who or what I am, where I am, and how I am, my nature, the qualities. And when these things are accurate and ideal, then that power emerges in a benevolent or beneficial way. When it isn't ideal, that same power can cause harm. We make mistakes. And again, the amount of energy is greater when the alignment isn't accurate. When it is, it just seems like more can be done with less effort. Things become natural and easy and automatic. So the importance of the alignment and positioning to generate power and the quality of power that will be generated based on how accurate I am in aligning. And then finally, breath. So if the right awareness, the knowledge is there, it's applied accurately, and the alignment is right, the result will be a very natural, free, and easy breath in the body, And even the feeling of the soul coming fully alive, being fully lit, awake, aware, breathing. It's interesting how little we can have this body breathing and still live and still function. And that's often because most of the time the alignment is not right. So breath is an indicator of the quality of alignment, so it can be used as a means to observe. If the breath is not moving my ribs, chances are the alignment isn't right, and chances are I'm on automatic pilot. There's no awareness. So that's the thing, is when we want to make change in the awareness, the alignment, in the breath, we need to be attentive. We cannot be on automatic pilot. And most of the time, we are. And if everything was perfectly aligned and functioning beautifully, it wouldn't be such a big deal, but they're not. And so attention is required, constant attention, and really almost to develop that habit of attention, but also a certain degree of enjoyment in that attention is necessary. So I actually do it because my default is to be on automatic pilot. So I need to make it attractive to pay attention. A certain degree of pride even, a very non-arrogant pride, you could say, because there's a care, a deep care in that attention. And not an attention where there's tension either, but again an enjoyment, a pleasure in doing something properly, accurately, which ultimately is an expression of love and of a respect for the body and for the self. So these are qualities I want to be generating and I want to have operating so that I can make these changes and sustain them. So why don't we again just kind of take ourselves into that experience of aligning the being, and then look at how we can perhaps use that aligning of the being to support the aligning of the body. So the spirit, or the soul, or the being, really is the first element, because the quality of the being is going to directly impact to what degree I'm going to be capable of aligning the body. And even the quality that I use in properly aligning the body will be very dependent on the quality of the experience I have as the being. I don't want to do it with rigidity, I don't want to do it with force, but I want to do it with that gentleness and that subtlety and that peacefulness that is the true nature of the being that I am. So, let's position ourselves in a royal way. Let's seat ourselves on the throne of the forehead. And in the last two sessions we did so initially by closing the eyes, which you're welcome to do, as it's a very easy and natural or fast way to go within. But if you want to try it with the eyes open, you can do that too. So hopefully at this point we know where our eyes are and we know where our forehead is. And just in case you don't, a very easy way to know where they are, don't poke yourselves in the eyes, but is to touch your forehead. Because then I feel, oh yes, okay, so I feel where that is, and now I take my finger away and I keep my awareness there. Yeah? So I used my touch, and as an instructor I do this all the time. I say to someone, do this to this part here, and they sort of look at me, and so I just put my hand there lightly, and they go, oh, you mean there? So sometimes there's a bit of disconnect. So if I touch, I use my hand, okay, there. I take it away, and I perhaps can more easily direct my attention there now because I've created a tactile sense of focus. So now my attention is focused there. I really have the feeling of I, the one seated there, am observing through the eyes. And I just want to invite myself to stay there, as that will naturally concentrate my energy. And as my energy becomes concentrated, naturally the power increases. The power of becoming concentrated. And as that power grows, I begin to get a feeling of the quality in that power. The quality that is being generated by this ideal positioning. It's very stable. There's a calmness. There's a sweetness in it. A kindness. And a joy. The soul is breathing, coming alive, centered, aware, present. And when I, the soul, am fully breathing, fully alive, I transmit that quality of energy very naturally into my body. And the first movement, the fundamental movement of the breath, is directly affected, impacted by this change in energy, creating a lightness, an openness, an ease, but also a power. And if I focus my attention as the one seated on the forehead, I can take in any part of this body, and right now I want to observe the ribs and to feel how the energy I'm generating is now affecting the quality of that breath, the quality of that movement. It's no longer just breathing, it's an act of love, of life for this body. In that very breath, the energy of the being, I the being, is coloring that breath. And in that breath, that energy is being circulated throughout this body. It's no longer just a flow of air in and out, but it's a sharing of the spiritual energy that I am generating, animating my body, changing the experience of being in my body, and ultimately of moving my body. And I suppose if I was to stand up and move around while staying aligned and alive, while maintaining that sense of connectivity, it would have an impact on that movement. Should I try? I may not go walking around, but I'm going to stand up. So I don't know if you're going to want to maybe adjust the camera. Otherwise, I'll become headless for the people online. All right? Closer to the camera. Yeah, there you go. So, while staying on the throne of my forehead, And this feeling of animating the body and of aligning naturally, of creating spaces between the bones, of releasing tension. I don't even have to think about what I know as an instructor to align. But it's almost as if very naturally there's this connection between I'm in my ideal position and whatever I touch, whatever I am managing will be accurate. So interesting to play with that. I'm going to sit down again. So, very simple thing to do. Hopefully was fairly easy to position and then feel that connection, the impact on the being in that state of well-being, and then the effect on the body. And we're constantly having this effect, but what is the nature of that effect depends on, am I soul conscious? Am I properly positioned, aware, aligned, alive, and then sharing that. Now, last week we spoke a little bit about as well what can get in the way of that. When I'm not here, where am I? What am I? How am I? What is defining me? Because ultimately that's what this is. I am now defining myself as spiritual, as subtle, as energy, as seated here. Otherwise, I'm kind of everywhere and nowhere. And that automatic pilot is operating. And depending on how things are going, I'm colored by it, and then I'm transmitting that to my body. You know, I work with people, and one in particular comes to mind. She actually developed like difficulty walking, pain, and literally her back, when she tries to get up, it's locked. So she gets up with a lot of pain. And she didn't have that before a very traumatic event happened. And just that traumatic event had such an impact on her body, on her, that then got transmitted to her body. Because the event didn't impact her body directly. It impacted her, and then it had an effect within her body. And the result is something that's still ongoing months later. Because, of course, it became ingrained. So this is what can happen, is we are not centered. We're everywhere and nowhere. We're being defined by, if you remember, those 4 Ps. And, of course, those 4 Ps, if you remember, were somewhere over here. They're not really over here. Okay, there's nothing over here. But I think I was gesturing over here. But again, those 4 Ps were people. If we take a moment and think about the people in our life, work, family, friends, neighbors. Yeah, there's a lot. And we connect to them and are colored by them and then defined by them. And however that relationship or connection is going, we are colored by that. We are affected by that. And that goes into our body. And then package. Usually start with that one first, but I went to people. I think because that's a really big one. But if we start really close to home, the first relationship we have, and we have this relationship 24/7, is with our body. And again, depending on the health of it, how it's functioning, that has a huge impact on us. We define ourselves by the appearance, age, all sorts of things connected to the package. And if we take a moment and imagine ourselves standing in front of a mirror or describing ourselves to someone, and this whole sense of ourself, very connected to that description, to that image, and yet I'm not that. And yet what an effect it can have on me, and then as it has an effect on me, has an effect on the body. Yeah, so this interplay between the people, interplay between the package. Possessions. The energy that is needed to deal with the whole area of possessions. The thoughts that are generated. The money. The time. Yeah, the emotions. The worry. The desires. All of these things for the possessions. And how we can then even define ourselves based on that. A big one actually is food. And that interplay with the body, and that interplay with people. They're very interconnected. But when I lose myself in it, when I define myself by it, then I'm again everywhere and nowhere. And colored by that, and it coloring the body. And then finally, position. I work. I at work may have a title, or I may belong to an organization, or just the position that I have within my family or my community. And all of these, again, define me, or I choose to be defined by them. And, I can take a moment and think about those elements. I often will say, I'm a Pilates instructor. Perhaps it might be better to say, I'm this being seated here who teaches Pilates through this body. It's a bit awkward, yes. But to be so accurate so that I never disappear, because that's where I have power. And not only where I have a power, because I can have power in other interactions, but I know the quality of that power is going to be accurate, efficient, and beneficial. And of course I want that, because otherwise accidents happen. And then that takes a lot of energy to address that. Now, these 4 P's aren't bad. The package isn't bad. How would I live without a body? It'd be very strange. It'd be very impossible. The package is not bad. People are not bad. We want to share. We want to interact. There's a lot of joy that can happen in that sharing. But the quality of it is very much defined by, or determined by, do I define myself by that relationship? And how is that relationship going? Am I high on it? Am I low on it? And the impact of that. So relationships are great. The people are great in our life. Possessions. Now again, how do I live without a roof over my head? Transportation, we need things. We need stuff. As an actor, you're in a play, you have something called props, which is short for properties. Possessions, property. You need those. Trust me. You don't want to be looking for the thing you need that is essential to the scene you're about to go in. Yeah, they're very, very important. And they allow life to be sustained. So they're not bad, but again, my relationship with them, that is what is important. And finally, position. Again, not a bad thing. I can do a lot of great things through the position I have. I know I benefit a lot of people by being a Pilates instructor. But again, my relationship with it. If it's going well, am I high? If it's not going well, I go low. Do I get agitated by how a client is behaving because I feel it's impacting my prestige, how I will be perceived, my value. This is huge. The value of myself that I derive from these is what keeps me caught. I do not want to derive my value from those 4 P's. I want to derive it from a 5th P. I want to derive it from myself, the point, the being. I want to derive it by being present. Present to the point that I am the point of my life. And when I am absent, it's like my life has no point. And so it's good to have these 4 P's. Not so good to derive my value from them and therefore create dependency, desires, expectations, being influenced. We know that for the body, a low immune system is not good. Yeah, when your immune system is really low. And I honestly feel alignment has a huge impact on that because of the effect it has on this area here, where the diaphragm is, where the solar plexus is. I think the adrenals are also somewhere there. It's a big emotional center. And when there's a huge amount of tension there, and it's very, very tight and gripped, which will happen when the alignment isn't right. And guess what? I'm being affected by those 4 P's. Like that story I told earlier about that individual who had a traumatic event, tension, and it just, the effect on her body. But the effect on the immune, I think, is very much impacted by this tension, which can be very much alleviated by correcting the alignment. When the immune is low, I catch everything that's going around. When the being's immune is low, I should say, I don't catch everything. That was wrong. Did you catch that? You didn't, huh? The body will catch everything that's going around. And I'll only feel I'm catching everything that's going around when I'm identifying with the body. My body has a cold. I'm fine. My body has a cold. It's a very good habit to start to develop. When the being's immune system, you could say, spiritual immune system is low, everything going around catches me, meaning it influences me. I'm influenced by anything and everything. And I'm just a yo-yo. And it's exhausting. And it does not create a very happy existence. Especially, same thing, when the body's continually, being weak, and it creates weakness. So it weakens me to be continually being affected. And so, this brings us to really, because our immune system has been very much compromised by being caught up in these 4 P's, being attached like a puppet, having my strings pulled by these 4 P's, and the weakening of the immune, because literally it would be my body, like my body being aligned like this, is what those 4 P's will do to me. I'm all over. Yeah, and there isn't that feeling of simplicity and centeredness and focus and presence and beauty. There isn't that grace, that royalty, when I'm constantly, depending on what the situation is, or depending what is happening with those 4 P's. But most of the time, it's just a lot of work. It can be just a lot of work, rather than pleasure. And then bringing that pleasure, another P, bringing that pleasure into my engagement. with those 4 P's. Yeah, so I want to be present as the point, and then engage and interact with those 4 P's, but not lose myself, and certainly not derive my value from them. But continually, that experience I have when I'm centered, that feeling I have of who and how I am, I want to derive from this. And when I do that, it liberates me, and it allows me to interact in a very beneficial, accurate, and pleasurable way with those 4 P's. Now, one more element. So we've talked about this low immune, and an element in that is that we can be very stuck. We can get very, very stuck. So I can know about this great alignment. I can be aware. And I can understand that it's really important that I position. I can be, just let's maybe look at the body for a moment. We'll use this example because that's sort of one of the things we're doing, is we're going from what we do with the body to understand, because it's visible, what that will mean spiritually. So let's just look at the body for a moment. So I understand that when I sit, the ribs need to be gently open. There's that little space back there, so I'm aligned. But it's not a habit, and so I tend to find myself, as soon as I engage in activity, I forget, I go on automatic pilot, and I kind of slump down. Unless I have that constant sort of habit of checking in, and realigning. Now, an issue, this is fine sitting because I've got feedback. I know where, my pelvis is relative to the chair, and I know where my rib cage is relative to the chair. And so that's helpful. There's a bit of feedback. But the worst is when I'm standing. Now, I can tell a client, and we can do a lot of exercises when they're lying down. And of course now, they don't even have gravity getting in the way. Sitting, there's still gravity. They're lying down. Everything is beautifully aligned because the floor is supporting them. And we can, put a cushion here and do all sorts of things, and it's just gorgeous. We sit them up. Okay, got to do a little tweaking, but not so bad. And then we stand them up, and oh my goodness. Because one of the things that kicks in are beliefs, habits, and beliefs. And so what does this look like? I'm going to stand up again. It's all going to be very exciting. What that looks like is, first of all, when I'm not properly positioned, and I can have someone come in and say to me, you know what? I have back pain. I don't know why. I've tried everything. Can you tell why I might have back pain? And so I look at them, and this is what I'm seeing. This is probably one of the most common postures. Oh, my knee. All right. Can you see why this person might have back pain? No? Can you see why this person might have back pain? Okay, you think so, yeah. So this is clearly compression of the spine here, forward head, pushing into the hips. There's a lot here to cause. Basically, all of my bones are compressing into each other. Now, my bones are not a series of building blocks stacked on one another. They're actually meant to be suspended in slings of tissues, so separated. Now, if I first of all get the weight off my heels, so I say to them, well, your weight should be on the front half of your feet. So as soon as we put the weight on the front half, like 60%, okay, there's a little bit of improvement, but I personally can still feel compression there. And then I might say, okay, your heart needs to feel like it's over your hip bones, and you need to just kind of soften your hip sockets back and bring your heart over your hip bones. How are things looking now? Yeah? Okay. Now, if I do this with most people, you know what they will feel like, and I will make my body look what they're experiencing. So even though this is where I put them, what they feel it as is this. Because they're used to being here. That's their habit. That's become the default. Now, they might know this is not good posture. Do you know how most people believe good posture is created? Shall I show you? I know you're dying to know. It's created by pulling your shoulders back, because most people feel that their shoulders are here. They're not particularly. But if your rib cage is here and your weight is back here, something's got to keep you falling backwards. And often the arms come forward and the head. So most people correct their posture by doing this. Did that correct my posture? No. And then they're wondering, what can I do about this? Like, I've been trying dieting. You know, no. This will go away when you take your weight over the 60% of your weight on the front half of your feet, hip sockets soften back, tailbone pointing down, heart over your hip bones, top of the head to the ceiling. Now my bones are floating. I feel connected to the floor. My breath is free. My ribs are open. So, this belief, and I will tell you, I can have someone here, and I am literally pushing them. And they are fighting me. They are fighting me. They will not let me put them here. They're like, you know, and then when I finally, I'm like, okay, just go like this. Let's go from there and build you up. So the belief is so strong that where they are, they need to just pull back and go further back and create more compression. And B, where I want to put them is falling on their face. So will you implement good posture if that's what you feel? That you believe this is what you need to do, even though you know now it's wrong. I've told you, you understand, but the belief is so ingrained. And we have accumulated a lot of beliefs. So that's in the body, just for simply aligning, not even starting to walk around, just to align. There are these beliefs in play that block us putting our body in the alignment we now know is right. So, interestingly, it's actually very helpful to get the being positioned and then have them implement the alignment. Because this position of the being is actually quite liberating. Even to the point of liberating from the feeling that they need to stay stuck there. Physically need to keep the body there. It's interesting. So if I'm really seeing a lot of resistance to change, and that's going to be a huge factor in moving from definition by the 4 Ps to definition by the point, is resistance. I've invested a lot there. I've invested a lot in this posture. I had a client tell me, you're going to hate this, but when I was young, I used to take a pole and pull myself back like this and flatten out my back. And she sort of has this look on her face like, oops. And she invested a lot of time and energy in that. Now she knows now it's not right. Now you may know this is not right, the 4 Ps to invest my sense of value and happiness in that. But I've been doing it for so long. And without that constant attention, even the pride of operating from here. And, you know, even that, because of the weakness in the soul, weakness in the body, from being here for so long, the pain, etc., all of these things get in the way of me being able to implement and to do the right thing. So, if I see someone come in front of me and I can see, wow, they're really stuck there, and maybe I've tried this, but the body has actually the tissues, and this is a fascinating thing about habits. So we know that habits, they're very difficult to shake because it's like a programming that becomes very entrenched. And in spite of ourselves, it's like we might notice after the fact. Well, interestingly, when the body is put somewhere in a position for long enough time, there's something called connective tissue. And that tissue is like saran wrap over every muscle, bone, organ, everything in your body. It will actually conform to the shape that you're holding your body in. And it does not adjust easily at all. So now I need to go here. Your connective tissue keeps pulling you back here. Imagine. So I will sometimes suggest a therapist, or I will do some manual therapy on them. So they need an outside influence, if you will, to help to get some freedom. And what's fascinating is that when I do this particular technique on someone, which is pretty much to start to impact the being who is actually generating a certain quality of energy that is keeping that connective tissue quite stiff. When I do this work, very gentle, very non-invasive, which can feel like I'm just putting an energy into that tissue and just getting it to start to soften and move, it actually impacts the whole body, and it impacts them, which is why it then impacts the body. So I could do it on one leg, and they could actually feel a bit of freedom in the other leg or elsewhere. Because again, a theory I have is that our connective tissue is very affected, the quality of it, the dryness or stiffness of it, by our vibration. And so by impacting the being in this way, like they literally become so relaxed. And as one client said, I didn't realize it was like I had one of those, fluorescent lights that's not quite working and it's buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. That's what was going on in my head. And not until you did that did I even know that was going on, because it shut off. And they were able to calm, and it released. We, the being, can need that outside influence. And so we do something that's called yoga. We unite, we connect with an energy that is constantly in that pure, aligned, accurate positioning, awareness, and breath, constantly alive, the living being. We all are living beings, but we're not always in that state of full livingness. Yeah, often it's like we're almost half living. This being is fully alive, properly aligned and aware, and generating a quality of energy that when we connect to it, can help to release those hard, ingrained patterns and programming. And without that outside influence, it is very difficult to become free of this dynamic that we have with those 4 Ps. I would say impossible. just by virtue of we've been doing this a long time and we've conformed to this is how we operate when in contact with those 4 P's. In spite of everything we know now. It can be frustrating. It can be frustrating for someone. They now know how to properly align their body and they can't because the body's quite stuck. But as soon as they can get it to free, and sometimes, as I said, just getting them on their seat and the calming effect that can have on their own energy can start to impact that. But sometimes, and a lot of the time, they'll have to go see a massage therapist or someone who can do body work to help to create release, an osteopath, etc. And so for us, our spiritual osteopath, our spiritual massage therapist is the Supreme Soul. And Supreme can sound like, way above us, but in fact, the one soul that is beyond the influence of all that this interaction with the 4 P's has had on us. And so when I connect to that soul, when I engage in yoga, and the expression sometimes we'll use is yoga of the intellect. And if we think of whenever the word intellect is used, it means your interest, and that you do it consciously. So if I do something with the intellect, I'm doing it very consciously. I'm choosing with that attention and understanding and interest. I want to benefit myself. I want to become free of this. I now understand the damage that it's doing. What do I do? Oh, that's going to help me. Okay, I want to connect there. Then my interest is engaged. And then there can be a proper connection. But again, just like for me to position myself, I need information. Who I am, how I am, where I am, what I am. I also need that information to accurately direct my interest and have accurate yoga. Otherwise, I may connect slightly off track and not get quite the result I'm looking for. I thought I had the right address for this guy, couldn't find him, never got my massage treatment. Very frustrating. Now, interestingly, when I align myself properly, if I take that time and attention, it makes it a lot easier to have that accurate connection or yoga. And the impact of that connection will be also much more and more beneficial. And so, just as I know I am a point of conscious energy, like a tiny star radiating vibration, spiritual light, so the Supreme Soul. It's just that the quality of that energy is pure, meaning untouched by wrong relationship with matter, with people, etc. That being is eternally, constantly in that pure state and generating that energy and available specifically. It's like the occupation of that soul is to liberate us, is to free us, is to heal us, is to increase the power of our immune, and to help to remove that hold that those patterns and programming has on us. The word we'll use sometimes is it's like a purification treatment. Yeah, so very liberating, very freeing, very healing, very uplifting. It is an experience of love. It is to receive love from God. And so when I understand that that's being as a point like I am, radiating energy, a very pure, elevated quality of energy that is available to me and is actually, I am being invited to receive that love because I need it. Massage therapists want you to go and get treatment. And really the relationship is of a child with a parent. In fact, this is our spiritual parent. And so we have a right to receive that love and that care and that contact. And that being, called the Supreme, is not just beyond these influences, but beyond even the physical world. And because of being beyond the physical world, remains beyond the impact of these things, that we as human souls, so one Supreme Soul, many human souls, many children, we can then go and experience that connection. And so we understand the Supreme to be in a non-physical dimension and to be in a region of light that is silent and where there's complete stillness. So it's a very specific treatment room. And to get access to it, I simply need to be positioned myself. So shall we do a little experiment? Shall we go for a treatment? Are you ready to be liberated from all that tight programming, wrong programming, damaging programming? We can just keep the light as is. Yeah, why not? I once had an amazing therapist, and her room was bare bones. There was like fluorescent light. It was not ideal, say, ambience, but she was extraordinary. And quite frankly, that's what I was there for. So we want to do it whatever the atmosphere, and it's quite nice now anyway. So I invite you to seat yourself royally on the throne of the forehead. If you need to just touch, to remind yourself, oh yes, that's where my seat is, that's where I am. I'm always there anyway, but now I do it consciously with the intellect, with that interest, that understanding that this is where I am present, I am powerful, I am peaceful, I am the point. And in the pure state of being that this position places me in, I take just a moment, a few more minutes or moments, to sustain myself there and become concentrated there. I want to stay there. It feels good to be in the driver's seat of this body, to be in the seat of the Master, where there is self-mastery. And to feel that subtle energy that I'm generating, that subtle light that is shining out through my eyes. Feel the quality of it. Enjoy it. Acknowledge it. To feel it color the breath. Free the body. Create that lightness. That gentleness. And as that concentrate point now alive and breathing, It's as if my light shines brighter and brighter, more light and more light, filling the space of my mind, my awareness. Even to the point of feeling as if my entire body is filled with light. And that light is then shining outwards into the space around me. I and my body enveloped in light, filled with light. All coming from the point, the soul that is me. And in that light and the lightness, it is like an entryway or even a vehicle to that space of light. That spiritual dimension. That is beyond this physical world. And I feel my connection to it, to a space of such profound, sweet silence, and filled with light. That draws me into itself. And there is a presence there. A soul. And I feel touched by that one. As if that one soul has the right to touch the deepest part of me. To feed that part of me, that pure essence of me. To empower. To heal. And I need simply allow that one open myself to receive the love, very subtle, very quiet, the most non-invasive treatment I could ever have, so respectful. and yet I feel something so beautiful, pure, and sweet within myself, being fed. Being brought fully alive. And everything else just falls away. Whatever that was acquired, what has kept me stuck, falls away. And all that is beautiful and true and good becomes so vibrant and alive. Feeling so full and so free. I become aware of my body around me, and I, the one seated on the throne, so royal, and so alive. And at peace, so well. And ready to live my life, free and full. Om Shanti. So wherever you are right now, stay there. This is who you are. There's absolutely no reason to come out of this alignment ever again. But if you do, I hope you know how to easily and quickly get yourself back where you are powerful, where you are beautiful, and where your value is beyond measure. Thank you for joining for these three sessions, and enjoy being a soul moving your body. Good night. Om Shanti.